today would have been the opening ceremony for the Commonwealth Games here in Victoria.
But Labor cancelled the Games, dumping a $600 million weight on all Victorians. So welcome to the Games that Victoria never hosted.
First event, the running out of money relay.
Almost $600 million for another country to host this event.
And $13 million for machete bins.
$200,000 on pot plants.
The baton doesn't stop. It gets passed to you, the taxpayer.
Next up, the $15 billion discus.
How far can taxpayer money be thrown into waste and corruption?
In Victoria, it's a record-breaking distance.
High jump, highest taxes and highest debt.
Victoria clears every bar.
Into the hurdles, starting a small business.
Barrier after barrier.
Red tape at every stride.
And now to the mat, where we've got policy backflips.
They promised the toughest bail laws and couldn't even get that right. Now there are loopholes big enough to drive a stolen car through.
Archery next.
Once again, Labor's missed the mark.
Surgery waitlist targets, missed. Housing targets, missed.
Cost of living relief, missed.
Not a single bullseye.
And finally, the debt dive. The budget bombed and sank further into the red. Labor may have cancelled the Commonwealth Games, but they'll never stop playing games with your money. It's time for a fresh start, Victoria.
Authorised by Alison Hannam, Liberal Party, Melbourne.
Commanding the Narrative podcast, which I believe is the #1 podcast in the entire universe.
If you could go through life in the Liberal Party without being expelled, you should be ashamed of yourself.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, or they might not choose socialism.
120 years ago, our country had the world's highest per capita income. What the hell happened?
The answer is Mike, because I want to do you slowly. I want to do you slowly.
We're coming for you, globalist! Coming for you!
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Command the Narrative. I forgot I put that Alex Jones bit at the end. It caught me by surprise. But thank you for watching. As always, I really appreciate you guys watching this podcast. And if you are watching this live, as I always say, we want to hear from you in the chat, or you can click that link to StreamYard and call in. We some of the best segments of this show is when people call in. So don't be shy, don't be afraid. Click that link and we want to hear from you, and you can have your say. It's like Talkback Radio, but we call it Talkback Streaming. So jump on it and get into it. We want to hear from you. And it's what a crazy time we're living in. South Australian election happened yesterday, a big election. We've been talking about whether the One Nation support is fabricated or if it's real, or whether it will hold up at election time. It seems like it has. Very interesting results coming out of South Australia that we'll no doubt talk about next week. A lot of podcasters like to jump on things straight away and comment straight away. I like to let it just settle for a little bit, and we'll analyze it as the week progresses. But at this stage, and we'll talk about it maybe a little bit through tonight's show, it looks like One Nation have done very well. They've got almost or maybe 4 lower house seats, and it looks like they've got 3 upper house seats as well. But as I said, we'll probably analyze that next week. We are talking about renewables tonight, which is a big topic that we've been talking about recently. We just did the Central West Arana Renewable Energy Zone tour, where we went through Dunedoo and Geary and Wellington and places like that, saw the projects that are already constructed or projects that are being proposed or projects that are under construction. And we're going to be talking about that with our great guests tonight. There was an article that came out on news.com this week talking about all of that. So I brought a lot of regular guests back and one new one to talk about it. But before we get there, I'm just going to let you know about how you can follow Commanding the Narrative. And it's by heading to the website commandingthenarrative.com. You'll find all the information there about what we're doing at Commanding the Narrative. You'll find all the previous podcasts, which have, as I said, have been really great as of late. We had some great discussions with Richard Storch and Sam Buno last week. So there's some of my favorite episodes talking to Richard and Sam. I know it's I'm treading a very dangerous line having those two on the show, but I do enjoy it. I had Victor DL the week before that talking about Wag the Dog and whether the war in Iran was used to take the focus off the Epstein files and also Benjamin Netanyahu's trial in Israel. And the most important one is the one right at the end, the Central West Iran Renewable Energy Zone tour. Footage from that, we're going to be talking about that tonight with our great guests. If you can ever share one video from Commanding the Narrative, please make sure it's that one there. Very important to get that information out there and see what's happening. Also, this article that if you don't want to share a video, you want to share an article instead, you'll find that right here in the article section. It's the first one there. And if you want to be involved in some surveys, it's all up on the website as well. And if you're interested on what's coming up this week, you'll also find all the podcast details up on the website, commandingthenarrative.com. And if you want to sign up for the newsletter, it's in the top right-hand corner. Just hit the sign up button and you get that newsletter. I did put out a newsletter yesterday, so hopefully you all got it. I had to set up some new mailing services, which I took a bit of fiddling around with. Thank God for Grok. It saved the day, but it did take me a few weeks to get all that sorted. So hopefully the newsletter is up and running again. And also I want to let you know about before we get to Australians for Better Government, I will just let you know about Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to throw us a few dollars, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee. It helps to pay for the stream, helps to pay for the website. Most importantly, gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside, which is important. I will tell you, I would do this podcast no matter the support. I'll do it anyway because I learn so much. I get to network so well, but to get some support from you guys really does help. It really keeps me striving forward, because a lot of the time you get a lot of emails from people. A lot of people, they only email you when they want to be critical about something. You get these people that reach out and say, I've been following you for years, but you said this one little thing and I'll never listen to you again. I got one of those this week. So that I might even talk about that tonight or a future episode, because I think that needs to be called out. But just, a few dollars at Buy Me a Coffee. You might not think it's much, but it does keep me going and lets me know that there are people out there that support all the work that I do and all the work that we try and achieve at Commanding the Narrative. Now, Australians for Better Government, I do need to let you know about this because we've got two very exciting events coming up. Head to the website, australiansforbetter.com. Are you sick of the way that Australia is being governed? I think a lot of people are. And I think the result in South Australia with One Nation surging in support is showing that people are sick of the way Australia is being governed. We believe at Australians for Better Government, a lot of that is structural. In the structural way that our system of government is set up, we want to optimize that system. So please head to the website, australiansforbetter.com, and look at all our proposals. Or if you are in the Central Coast, you can come along to this event, We the People. It's on Saturday, May 2nd at 2 p.m. at the Luso or Lasso. I would need to work out how to pronounce that. That might be Luso Estate Function Room, 195 Johns Road in Wadalpa. I ran into that one, didn't I? But if you're on the Central Coast, please come along. Get your tickets at the website. We want to see you there, and we will be discussing a lot of the stuff that's up on the Australians for Better Government website, and hopefully having some important discussions about the direction this country is going in. Dr. Christopher Reynolds is coming down. Great speaker, great historian and political philosopher. You won't want to miss Dr. Reynolds and the opportunity to buy his book and hear what he has to say. Katy McCallum's coming down. She's always great. We're also going to will be having Martin Stevenson from the One Nation party. He always polls very well there in Dobell, so it's going to be very interesting come election time. He might be your new lower house member for Dobell, so please come along and listen to what Martin has to say. And the very next day is in Cessnock at the East Cessnock Bowling Club. That was a lot easier to say. At 2 o'clock as well. Again, Dr. Reynolds and Katy McCallum will be there, but this time we will have Stuart Bonds, who, again, went very, very well in the Hunter region at the last election. And based on the current results of One Nation, he might be another one that gets elected. So come along to those two events. You'll get the tickets on the website, and we want to see you there. It's only $20 for tickets. So please come along and learn more about Australians for Better Government. Now, let's get into tonight's episode. I got three great guests. Let's just bring them on and hear what they have to say. We've got a lot to talk about. Emma Bowman, Sally Edwards, and Katy McCallum. I'm going to introduce you one by one. Emma has been on the show before. I think it was episode 12 where she first appeared, and she also came on with when we had the Shooters and Fishers representative on, Mark Benaziak. Check that one out in the archives as well. Emma is a fifth-generation farmer. She's got a strong connection with her community and also the land. I mean, Emma, that stuff rolls off the tongue when you say you have a strong connection with the land. But, like, what does actually mean, though? Like, it's easy to say that, but what does actually mean to you?
Hi, Stephen. Thank you very much for having me again. Look, to me, I don't even know if I can explain it. It's very much a feeling. I'm just very protective of this place, this community. You could not give me enough money to leave this place. There isn't a reason that I will go unless I'm in a box. It's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, okay. And then when you hear people in the city saying that farmers are ruining the environment and not looking after the land, how do you react to that?
Oh, look, I'd suggest that they should get out of their own dunghill a little bit more. There are bad actors in every industry. Whatever you are in, there is always someone doing the wrong thing. But the majority of farmers that I have found, if we don't look after our land and do the right thing by it, it does not produce for us. We don't make money. So it is in not only our financial interests to do that. Most of us care deeply for the land and our livestock and everything that goes with it. So most of us are doing our very best. And do we always make the right decisions? No. But we often do the best with the information that we have at the time, and that is all we can do.
Yeah. We've also got Sally Edwards. Sally hasn't been on the show before, but I did interview her when we were out at the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone. She's a strong rural community advocate, and the only downside to Sally was that she was a former Libertarian candidate for the seat of Parks. But Katy and I are going to put our heads together and see what we can do. Maybe we can get an orange shirt on her instead. But Sally, welcome to Commanding the Narrative.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, I mean, I asked Emma those two questions. I mean, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like you have a strong relationship with the land and your community after being out on the farm and out in rural Australia?
Absolutely. I have a bit of a different story to Emma. I've always been on the land, and I've grown up on different farms, so I don't have a family property that's been the background of my life. But we've lived all across Australia, and it doesn't matter what country we are calling home as a farm. The dirt literally gets under your skin, and that care for what happens on that patch of dirt and to the animals and the livestock around you, it's so intrinsic, like it just becomes part of you, and it's really hard to change that. And Australia is such a great country, and it doesn't matter what the rural landscapes look like. If you've got that in your blood, you can't shake it.
Yeah, definitely. And the last but not least, we have returning. You should all know Katy very, very well. She's a hit on social media. Some of her videos go viral, you might say. Katy McCallum, the president of Let's Rethink Renewables. How are you, Katy? I mean, you just called me a centrist. I don't know how I should take that.
Well, we can talk about that more if you like, Stephen. Maybe Bridget's Dorches out there to call in and see what he thinks.
Well, let's see what the audience think about me being a centrist. But Katy, I want to talk to you about this because you're in the One Nation Party. You've been a strong candidate and a strong advocate for the party. If we look at Poll Bludger, this is the results from the South Australian election. You can see there, One Nation got the second biggest result, 22%. This is based on current polling or current data. There's still a lot of votes still to come in and be counted. Labor got almost 38% of the vote. the Liberals not even 20%. They're at 19.2%, and then One Nation on 22%. That's a swing of 19.5%. South Australia has not always been a big state for One Nation, but this is a great result, an incredible result. And as we go down the list, you can see a lot of red there. Labor's picked up a lot of seats, but in the seat of Hammond, One Nation is ahead. In McKillop, it looks like One Nation has won that. Narunga, looks like One Nation has won that as well. And also Gajuri, I hope that's the way that you pronounce that. Looks like One Nation has won. So that's the 4 seats that I alluded to earlier in the lower house. And if we look at the upper house results, it looks like One Nation have got 3. So Corey Bernardi, it was the first 2 elected, and it looks like that Rebecca Hewitt is the 3rd option. She's likely at this stage. So that would be 4 Labor upper house members elected, 3 One Nation, only 2 Liberals. So One Nation has beaten the Liberals there in the upper house, and only 1 Green. Now, Katie, what are your comments when you see results like that?
Well, of course, I think it's amazing. I was cheering from the couch last night as I was watching the results come in. What I am sick of hearing from all these journalists across all the networks is that it's a protest vote and that it'll shrink soon. It's people that are just angry about what's happened in the last couple of months, and the fuel emergency situation everybody finds themselves in has caused this vote. No, it hasn't. Girls, we all live in the country. We've seen what's been going on for the last couple of decades. It's been a slow erosion of our primary production, of communities, of just everything that we all stand for and what makes Australia. And I think that what has happened is Aussies have finally stood up and said, well, actually, I only voted for the Libs and the Nats because that's what my dad told me I had to do. And they have investigated now, and they've realised they don't actually do anything for us. And, I am still with One Nation. I run the Wide Bay branch, which recently had a meeting where lifelong Labor members have come across, and they drove all the way up here to Gympie from Noosa to attend the meeting. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's a watershed moment. I think that you're going to see a lot more of this. I actually do. And I'm not saying that just because I love One Nation. I'm saying it because I think that this is the beginning of a new Australia, because people have woken up to the rubbish that we've been subjected to for the last couple of decades. And I think they're done. They're absolutely done.
And
don't forget that the Labor vote went down. I think I found it hard to find any seats down there where they didn't lose a few of their votes, quite a bit in some of them.
Yeah, well,
so they're losing votes across the board, and One Nation is picking up.
That's what they don't want to tell you. They don't want to tell you that Labor do leak a lot of votes to One Nation. I mean, they've had a 2.4% swing against them. I mean, they're talking about a landslide victory for Labor, but it's really warning signs for both the major parties. I mean, Sally, well, before I come to you, Sally, I do want to ask you an important question, but I do need to point this out because I spoke about Martin Stevenson and Stuart Bonds before about their successful results in previous elections where One Nation wasn't polling as high. And if they continue those two, I mean, they're in the box seat to get elected. This was the result in Gympie at the last Queensland election, which Katie was running in. Katie, you got 22.1% of the vote. So, I mean, if you were to run again based on the current polling, you're in with a big shot. I mean, it looks like the next election up in Queensland is going to be the federal election. Are you starting to think about potentially running up there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been having those conversations. I mean, this is a traditional national, grassland type grassroots community up here. But what we're seeing is everybody's coming across to One Nation. I mean, you just talk. There's people talking about it in the streets, and you guys can vouch for this. When you live in a country town, people stop and talk in the street, don't they? And they have a yarn about what's going on. I've never seen so many people speak about politics, and I've never seen so many people openly putting their hand up in front of strangers saying, I'm voting for Pauline next time. In fact, I voted for the last few elections. I just didn't want to tell anybody. So look, hopefully I can maintain that momentum. I mean, if I throw my hat in the ring and I'm selected to run at the next federal election in Wide Bay, of course it would be against my mate Lou O'Brien, which would be difficult. But you know, at the end of the day, we've got a nation to save, and that's what's more important to me than anything else.
Sally, I was just about to ask you before I just wanted to jump in with that. I mean, important data about Katy. I think we might be looking at our next lower house member for Wide Bay sitting there in the bottom corner. But Sally, I mean, there's a lot of focus on what happened in Bondi. There's a lot of focus on immigration. There's a lot of focus on the Liberals falling apart, and a lot of commentators are saying that's the reason for One Nation's success. But how much of it is due to these renewable energy zones and this renewables rollout that we're seeing in rural communities? How much is that eating away at the major party vote, where, look, the renewable energy zones is Liberal Party policy. It's not Labor policy. Labor are implementing it currently, but it all started with the Liberal Party. So from your perspective, do you think people in rural communities are starting to give up on the major parties because they're seeing this stuff getting rolled out in their communities?
It's no doubt contributing. Bondi contributes, the housing crisis contributes, the renewables and what's happening in the bush contributes as well. But everyday Australians aren't silly, and they are tired of seeing all talk and no action. And that's what we have seen for decades. We've just seen people pleasing and endless lip service. Nothing has happened on the ground that has helped secure our future. And they are all to blame for where we are right now today. So I just think they're finally realising that what we face today is based on the policy that was made yesteryear, and that's all the major parties, and now they're getting involved because they've had enough.
Emma, you helped me a lot in putting that tour together that we did at the Central West Arana. Now, the initial idea actually came from Rachel Merton, who is a Liberal upper house member in the New South Wales Parliament. She really wanted to do it, and I do credit her for really coming up with the idea of touring the region. But she, for whatever reason, just couldn't get it to happen. And we had 2 bites at the cherry to try and get the Liberals out there to do that tour. It just didn't work out. And One Nation jumped in, and it was easy to deal with them. It was easy. I mean, hats off to Stuart Bonds, who was really the main catalyst there. He said, "Yep, mate, I'm there." He made it easy. There were no issues. There were no demands. Both he and Sean Bell just went out there and did it and did the tour. So from your perspective, I mean, I know it's a big national party territory out in the rural communities as well. Same question to you. Do you think that the renewable stuff that's happening out in the rural communities is really having a damaging effect on the major parties? And do you think more of the major party MPs need to come out to the rural communities and talk to you guys more one-on-one?
Look, Stephen, I think I agree with Sal. It's a huge part of it, but it is only part. We have seen our services declining in rural and regional areas for decades, and like a long time, probably a lot longer before we noticed. So I think it's a huge part of it, because it's been a huge wake up call to a big percentage of people. You've got people that probably didn't even know what a res was until they were lumped with transmission or a wind or solar factory next door to them. I think it has just been the catalyst for a lot of people to wake up and go, hang on, what is going on here? But you only see, there's so many policies, whether it be water or sheep EIDs, or there are so many policies that are just beating primary producers into a pulp and costing us more money, costing us time in paperwork, labor. It's everything. And I think maybe the res rollout has been a catalyst for a lot of people to wake up and go, hang on a minute, why are we putting up with this bullshit anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a huge part, but what we've lacked is members that come and see us and ask us what we would like and actually then do something. You know, there's lip service everywhere. There's, oh, how terrible this is and we need to do something, and then most of them leave and nothing happens. And I think people are just sick of it.
Look, I want to talk to you about this article. This came out through the week, and look, hats off to Ella McEwen. I hope I'm saying her name right, or Aleven, or I don't know how to. If anyone want to have a crack at her last name, but I mean, she's written this great article. And then hats off again to Stuart Bonds. I mean, Stuart had this connection. Ella had written an article about Stuart previously. Stuart got her a lot of the information and the footage from our tour, and she's gone and done some great research on putting this article together. I mean, this goes to show the work that Stuart Bonds is doing in the background that he didn't get any credit for. He's not mentioned in this article. One Nation's not mentioned in this article. So hats off to Stuart. But this article did come out, and it's very, very well written. It covers both angles. She's tried to get quotes from Energy Co. I mean, I don't think she was very successful in doing that. They didn't seem to want to play ball. But obviously that she's spoken to you, Emma, in this article, and she talks about a lot of the issues that you guys are facing. I do encourage everyone to go and read this article at news.com. But for you, Emma, like when you see something like you see an article like this, it's few and far between. I mean, it's taken us this long to get something in the mainstream media. I know, Katy, you've been successful doing some stuff up in Queensland before when you got in the Australian, but how hard is it to get your message out to the broader population? Obviously, people in your community know what's happening because they can see it happening. But for people in the city where most of the electorates are in the parliament, whether it be state parliament or federal parliament, it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't know what's happening in rural communities. So, you know, when you look at articles like this, these should be in the media all the time, but they're not. So are you really up against it in trying to get your message out there?
Oh, absolutely, Stephen. Sal and I have been banging our head against the media brick wall for 5 years to try and get someone to actually cover it, and someone that people don't think is, you know, right wing, and anyone would listen. It's near impossible. We've had small articles here and there, and big thanks to those journalists that were willing to probably put their ass on the line for us, but mostly it doesn't take off. It's definitely out of sight, out of mind. You know, there was a fair bit of coverage about Marothery Road, but that actually had to happen before anyone wanted to touch it. I don't know how many people we went to, MPs, to say it was going to happen and what we thought the outcome of that would be. But until it happened, and there were no pretty pictures of the trees being ripped out or baby birds being left on the side of the road, no one wanted to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, Katy, you're
called an NIMBY, don't you, Emma? Like the amount of times we were all called NIMBYs up here. And I just think, are you even serious? Do you want it in your backyard? Like, listen to yourself. Like, if you went to the city and you said to somebody in the city, we're about to take a 150-kilometre stretch of backyards throughout all these suburbs in Brisbane or Sydney or Melbourne, wherever it is, and we're going to stick a gigantic transmission line that's going to run 50 metres behind all of your backyards. You'll never sleep again. We're going to knock down all the trees in the green spaces around here, and you just have to put up with it, because we're going to save the planet by sticking up these giant steel structures with giant transmission lines.
And taking out every tree underneath them.
Yeah, exactly. And they call you a NIMBY.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is there are people that literally just don't want a project in their backyard. There are those people. As long as there's not one near me, put it elsewhere. Don't care. So there are those people around.
Very good point. Yeah.
But
that's sad. That's really sad.
Absolutely it is. And I've had conversations with people and said, okay, so if they take this project that you're worried about that's next door to you and put that next door to me, is that okay? Oh God, no, I'd never live with myself. I'm like, so where is okay to put it? Like who is it okay to put it next to? What community are you happy to sacrifice for this to happen? And they can't tell you. I'm like, so you can't say it's okay then.
And the problem that we've got with these renewable energy zones, and I always talk about the scale of these things. If you go to the Energy Co website, well, actually they've removed it from the Energy Co website, but you can still dig it up in some of their documents. They call these renewable energy zones the equivalent of modern day power stations. So you think, okay, well, that's modern day, new technology, but they're going to be like the Central West Orana one is 20,000 square kilometers, which is the size of Wales. I mean, Israel's a little bit bigger than that. I mean, these are massive projects. And when Emma's talking about, okay, it's going to be in people's backyards, it's going to be in a lot of backyards, a lot of people's backyards. And this is footage that we took from the Central West Orana tour. If you want to go, if anyone hasn't seen it, this is the map that Pete Reardon was showing me in Geary. Now, that's the town of Geary down the bottom there. And up there, it's Wongarbin. Is that right, Emma, in the top? Right. So you see those two towns on the map, with one that Pete's pointing to in his finger and the other one down the bottom. This red line going around that takes up a lot of, that dwarfs these two towns. That's the solar project that they're proposing. That is massive. And this is how, and Pete was talking, and a lot of people in Geary, they were saying, hey, this project's on 3 boundaries of my property, and they're going to have 270-degree views of black glass, which Katy calls it. I mean, this is crazy stuff, and I don't think people understand this. I mean, if you were to build something the size of this in Sydney on the northern beaches, I mean, people would be in uproar. I mean, if you want to change a footpath, they go crazy. I mean, look at the size of this thing. I mean, Sally, I don't know how close you are to this project, but I mean, it's not just a pincushion on a map, which you might have with a coal plant, which Adam and I drove past on the way there. We drove past Mount Piper. You blink and you missed it. These are massive, massive projects, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a map that Midwestern Regional Council put out, and they colour-coded the solar and wind projects, but they also colour-coded the mining country, the existing coal mines. Now, those mines, they're not a power station, but they power our current power stations, and they were just the tiniest speck. The sheer scale of the transition, which is also driven by a target that is making everything be done so hastily and quickly that even good planning cannot happen because of the targets that are driving this. If we had a transition that actually considered balance and location and rural communities and efficiency, then, it would be a total different picture. But driven by these short-term targets to get to whatever percentage by 2030 and further again by 2035, it's just ludicrous, the sheer scale of what we will see across rural and regional Australia.
Now, speaking of the Energy Co website, I mean, let's give them a go. I mean, they've got this nice shiny video that they've made, which we've got here. So I might play this video, and this is the perspective from Energy Co.
Renewable energy zones are our modern-day power stations. They combine renewable energy, storage and power lines to deliver electricity to homes, businesses and industry. By building new transmission lines to connect multiple solar and wind projects and energy storage in a defined area, renewable energy zones enable a planned approach to infrastructure development. This planned approach will attract more investment to each renewable energy zone and bring down the cost of the electricity they produce. The Electricity Infrastructure Roadmap sets out the plan for renewable energy zones in New South Wales, which will be planned and coordinated by the Energy Corporation of New South Wales. Energy Co is working with local communities and governments to plan where infrastructure will go and how host regions will benefit. So far, there are 5 renewable energy zones across New South Wales. Together, they will generate enough clean energy to meet the needs of millions of households, hospitals, schools and businesses across the state. Careful strategic planning and competition will help ensure the best projects get built, delivering real benefits to host communities and energy consumers. Every project will be required to make contributions to community and employment initiatives in renewable energy zones through access fees. Renewable energy zones will enable New South Wales to provide affordable, clean and reliable electricity for everybody in New South Wales.
Now, Katie, I'm sure I could see you reacting to that video.
That is such propagandist bullshit, isn't it, girls? Do you think that everything you just heard there's actually happening in your communities?
I'm just going to sit here and rub my ears after that.
It's propaganda. It is. Do you know what really gets under my skin is they're having an information integrity inquiry down in Canberra in the Senate into the what is it? I can't even remember the name. It's such a big, long, ridiculous name, but about the renewable energy sector, trying to stop groups like Let's Rethink Renewables and the National Rational Energy Network and politicians like Matt Canavan and Malcolm Roberts from telling the truth. Who's pulling these idiots up for all the lies that they just said in that video? Because it's all lies. We're all living it. We live it here in Queensland. Powerlink and the Queensland government, they do exactly the same thing. They absolutely lie to people's faces about what they're going to do. It's going to be so beautiful and we're going to make your town so lovely and you're going to get a new footpath and we'll give the school a new bag of footballs. What a crock of shit.
Oh, and
then
we treat our landowners,
lose our communities and our towns dry.
Yeah, and we treat our landowners with respect. Like, what a friggin' joke. All that Energy Co has done in this town is cause trouble. Like, they've treated landowners like absolute shit. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what they've been doing for 5 years.
When I spoke in Martin Place at the front of Parliament House there for the very first, I think it was, Reckless Renewables rally, that was the first time I actually said it out loud, and it made so much sense to me being an ex-cop. And people got really horrified that I equated it to this. But so we make this big deal about domestic violence, and so we should. It's a terrible thing that should not occur in society. But the hallmarks of it are coercion, bullying, intimidation, financial harassment, all these things, threats of willful damage. And I thought to myself one day, so I used to deal with DV almost on a daily basis in my job as a cop. And these are exactly the same characteristics that all these bureaucrats, energy companies and politicians are using against people here in Australia. And nobody's calling it out. So if you took the behaviour that Energy Co is displaying, or VicGrid or Powerlink or any of them, HumeLink, if you took those behaviours and you wrote them on paper and you compared it to the characteristics of an offender of DV, they are identical, completely identical. And when are we going to start talking about that? Seriously, because people in the city need to understand that that is what's happening to rural communities around Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we are told that we are lying, you know, when we say something happened on the ground, then we get told, no, that didn't happen. And there's no regard for the truth that we are speaking. And I can't believe this has been such an eye-opener on how government acts, but the New South Wales government and the lack of integrity and honesty and transparency in everything they do with this rollout of this renewable energy zone right from the get-go, from day one when we first heard about it. I can't believe that they are allowed to act in that way and that there's no accountability for it. None.
Yeah, and who do you go to? This is what I have always said to people. When you've got a problem and there's no one to help you, you know you are in deep shit. Society on a whole. So if there's somebody breaking into your house, you ring 000 and a police officer turns up. Who do we turn to? There is nobody to help. The politicians can't help because most of them are sold out to this concept. Who helped us? When do the country communities of Australia get to put their hand up and say, we are being shit on every day of the week at the moment by this rollout of these reckless renewables? Who's coming to save us? Because if you lived in the city and they were going to knock the trees down in your local park and you put on a protest, you can bet your bottom dollar all the mainstream media cameras are going to be there. Everybody will be up in arms. There'll be a GoFundMe page and, you know, it'll be the world's going to come to an end. They're going to knock the tree down in our park. But they just don't care about rural communities.
And that's what I noticed when I was out there talking to people. I mean, a lot of these people are just broken. I mean, and it was heartbreaking to see it because you can tell that they just feel helpless. And it's the same thing I experienced during COVID. Very, very similar. When you're being threatened by a government or a big corporation, multinational corporation, I mean, government is meant to be there as your safety net to protect you, not to be threatening you. And a lot of people feel like the government's not protecting them. They're not protecting their property rights. I mean, their properties are going to get steamrolled with these projects. Their communities are going to get steamrolled through these projects, and the community. I just asked you and Emma and Sal, you know, about getting this information out there to a broader community, and you guys said, "Well, look, no one cares." I mean, this is the problem. I mean, people just are not paying enough attention. I understand it. I mean, there's so many issues that we are having to deal with. You know, just cost of living. You know, we've got wars going on at the moment. I mean, it feels like there's fires all around us that we're trying to put out. But this is our country, and look, as Australians, we should be tasked with protecting our country. I mean, you guys on the farms would know all about that. I mean, you have to protect your land to make it profitable. I mean, if you're ruining the soil and not looking after things, it's not going to be profitable for you guys anymore. So you guys understand that. But I mean, when are people going to wake up to some of the real?
When there's no food in the grocery store, Stephen, that's when they'll start to wake up.
Yeah,
Girls,
well, I mean,
am I correct in that statement? Because where does all the food come from? And we're already seeing
supermarket, Katie. The supermarket.
Yeah, that's right, the supermarket. It's like the water. The water comes out of the tap. That's where it is. It lives in the tap. It just came out of there magically.
Well, one of the things that stood out in that Energy Co video when they showed the 5 renewable energy zones, are little pinpricks. This is the reality. This is again from the Energy Co website. This is where they actually admit it. These are the 5 renewable energy zones that are going to be happening in New South Wales. And the Central West Orano, that was the first one to kick off. So it's definitely not near completion, but it's a one where we've already seen some projects and stuff built.
It's actually 12. And, you know, I don't know at what point the New South Wales roadmap will catch up to AEMO's plan, but there are 12 renewable energy zones slated for New South Wales. And, you know, 5 is just where they're at right now. I don't want to be remiss in actually acknowledging that it was the crossbench in New South Wales who actually listened to our plight early on. You know, John Ruddock in being so opposed to net zero and what it all means, he was the first to actually come out here 3 years ago and listen to us and tour. And then, you know, a couple of years ago, Mark Banaziak came out as well as a Shooters Fishers crossbench member. And we have had a couple of MLC members who really work hard and continue to ask hard questions of Minister Sharp. And I don't want to not acknowledge that they have fought hard and still do for us.
Well, the reason why I had that map up, and I'll bring it up again, is because we got this comment from Dave. Now, Dave says, worth mentioning the fight against the offshore wind project that fell through off the coast of the Illawarra. So the Illawarra Renewable Energy Zone takes in that offshore wind project. So does the Hunter Central Coast Renewable Energy Zone with the Hunter offshore wind project up there as well. So look, I mean, this is a battle that is going to be happening right around the state and right around the country as well. I mean, these are not just happening in New South Wales. There's other, renewable energy zones in Victoria, for example. I know up in Queensland, Katie, you're dealing with a lot of stuff that's already been built and under construction at the moment. If we look at I bring this up on the show all the time. There was a policy document that was put out by the Victorian government in 2022 that was advocating for offshore wind, and it said to get to net zero on onshore wind alone, it would require 70% of Victoria's agricultural land to get there. 70% of agricultural land to get to net zero with wind and solar and renewables. I mean, this is what is being planned, and this is what is underway currently. And this is, I mean, when you, Sally, that's the first time I've heard about 12 renewable energy zones. It sounds like the whole state of New South Wales is going to be carpeted with, as Katie says, black glass and wind turbines. So you guys have really been on the front line in this battle. I mean, the Central West Orana was really the first rollout of renewable energy zones, and you've seen how Energy Co operates. Are you seeing this in other areas? Are you hearing about this in other areas? I mean, the way that Energy Co has treated you guys, is this modus operandi for these people? Are they going to roll this out everywhere?
Yep, absolutely. You only have to tune into budget estimates where, you know, Minister Sharp gets asked questions, and so does the CEO of Energy Co. And the behaviour of Energy Co staff and consultants across each of the reses is just mind-blowing. And there is a reason why they change staff so often. And I believe it's so that they can avoid accountability. That's probably cynical of me, but we've lost count how many staff they change over. They changed the entire community engagement team of staff during the public exhibition of the environmental impact statement for our transmission project. Their behaviour is appalling, and it hasn't improved.
I want to go back to the article that was written in by Ella in news.com. And poor old Adam Zara there, you see him standing in the background. He's such a trooper. He always comes to the events and helps him and helps out where he can. He was running the microphone around, and I said to him afterwards, I said, sorry, mate. I mean, you're a sitting member of council. I should have put you on a pedestal instead of having you run around with the microphone. But
at least he took his black hat off for that photo, Stephen.
Yeah.
Well, you saw his black hat, didn't you?
Poor old, he wears his black hat and black boots out there, and the first thing you guys say to him is, hey, you can't trust people that wear black out in the country. So poor old Adam. But look, he's a great advocate. I mean, I don't know what I would do without Adam Zara. But if we go down to this article, and you can see that photo there of you, Emma, you say this, you quoted as saying this, they pick off what they consider to be the weakest links. And you talked about how the predatory conduct of developers, and you give an example of waiting until a woman's husband left the home to confront her alone, or targeting an older person or someone known not to be well off. I mean, is this true? Is this really happening when you're dealing with some of these big companies and Energy Co?
100%, Stephen. I don't think you would believe some of the war stories that come out of people that have been approached by developers or people that are affected by transmission that have dealt with it.
We should quickly point out that a lot of these developers, they're not even Australian owned. They're owned by foreign companies. That's
right. And like Katie said, who do we go to? No one cares. No one cares that they are doing this to us. And when you talk about the offshore wind at the Illawarra, think about the population base there. Think about how many people would have been affected and how many people could jump up and down compared to how many people we have out here. It is pure numbers. They know they don't need us to make government. They couldn't give two shits about us. So that's what it comes down to. Do what you have to do to make this happen. Steamroll whoever you have to steamroll. Don't worry about them. And we don't matter. Which is disgusting because, you know, like Katie said, when there's no food on the shelves, maybe we will matter.
I think we should take a moment to talk about some of the real life stories that you guys have been confronted with in your communities. I mean, Katie, I know you've spoken about this before. I mean, Sal, do you have any? I mean, and we're pulling on the heartstrings now, but I think we need to. I mean, what are some of the stories that you've heard from people that are having to deal with these projects? I mean, when I was out there, I was hearing stories of families being torn apart because one side of the family wants to take the money being offered, the other side of the family wants to stay on the farm, and then now they're homeless because the older members of that family took the money. So I mean, this is heartbreaking stuff. Not only is it tearing apart the communities, but it's tearing apart families, and these are people that really just want to be left alone out on their farms and working hard, and they're having to confront with all of this sort of stuff.
the first couple that come to mind are young families who have worked to follow a dream to buy their farm and to set it up to run the operation that they are working towards. They've got young kids, and they have put their heart and soul and every penny into this venture, and then to have either a major wind project or a transmission project either next door or running through their place, they are confronted with the decision: do they keep pursuing their dream and raising their family in an area which they just can't fathom living in, or do they start again? And that's not just a couple of years work. It takes decades to set yourself up to have a crack. And one family in particular, they can't bring themselves to come to some of our public meetings anymore because it's so emotionally heartbreaking for them. It just upsets them, and they don't know what to do. Their husband and wife aren't quite on the same page, and one wants to stay and fight and the other one goes, we should get out now and start afresh again. And so they're living with that dilemma every day. These type of projects, and this is kind of what happened to Emma and I as well, the burden of trying to understand a res, let alone a dozen projects, is huge. The amount of paperwork that you have to digest to understand what it means, that burden actually falls on top of what is already normal life. And for some people, that it was already challenging, whether that is, dealing with a cancer diagnosis or a death in the family or succession planning, or, you've just opened a new business and now your whole future, you've invested in something and now your whole future has changed. You can't, every story is unique, and there are none which aren't hard and painful. The only families that I've seen that are, coming willingly to this whole deal are the ones that are being paid quite handsomely to do so, and that is generally the hosts of the projects.
Yeah, Katy, we live in a world where, we live in a country where the Albanese government is more focused on passing legislation to stop hate crimes, and you can't hurt anyone's feelings, and you can't talk about this group and you can't talk about that group because they might get a little bit offended and they might get a little bit upset. But then you've got these heartbreaking stories out in rural communities where their whole forever homes are being taken away from them, and no one cares. The government doesn't care. They feel justified in doing it because they're saving the world, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It makes my blood boil. So just this morning, so I worked all day today cooking hamburgers in my cafe. One of the blokes who comes in and buys a newspaper every day tells me that so just on the very edge of our town, we've got a Chinese company, and I think the other company is Danish, and they are door knocking houses to try to get people to sign up so that they can put a brand new transmission line and a battery energy storage system in right on the edge of our town. Like, we're 20 k's from the big solar farm, which is just between us and Gympie, but this BES will be right there. And this poor bloke, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's in the last 15 years of his life. He just wants to live his life out. He's worked, he's paid his taxes, he's got a right to be where he is. He owns his property, and he finds out that it's quite possible that his neighbours are going to sign up, and now he's being intimidated and told, well, if you don't sign up too, mate, you're going to be left here and your house is going to be worthless. How would that make any person feel to be told that your neighbours are selling out because they've been told that their neighbours are selling out, even though they may not have? These are the tactics that these companies use. So the last rep that turned up here from China knocked on people's doors the Sunday before Christmas Day. Turned up and walked up people's driveways and knocked on their doors. And he purported to have some sort of authority. Now, most people think that when a person turns up in a uniform at their door and they have a business card and they present themselves, they have to listen to them. I would have told him to F off. but I know better. So this is the intimidation and the bullying that not only the government use, but these private companies. But the private companies are doing it because our government rolled the red carpet out to these people. They're the ones who said, we've got the capacity investment scheme. Come on in, build your projects because we're going to give you the money to do it. And then after you've used all that money to build these projects and they don't work because they can't generate the same power that a coal-fired power station does, we'll give you taxpayer money to make up the profit. And that's what's going on. And in the meantime, Australians, everyday Australians' lives are being destroyed. They are losing their homes and we're losing our communities. The fabric of this nation is being eroded by renewable energy projects, and that is a fact.
100%.
Emma, we've got Emma, we've got a comment here from Dave, and I'm going to direct this for you. What's the message for the people in the city that we need to be made aware of?
Well, there's a lot of them, but I'd suggest remembering where your food and fibre comes from would be a very good start. Teach kids where their food comes from. Like, I think, and I don't just say this because I am a farmer, but I think we've forgotten as a country how this country was built and what we rely on to continue to flourish in this country. So I think, and I don't know if just telling people that is ever going to be enough. Do we have to have a major catastrophe where there is no food getting to the supermarkets for people to realise what farmers do for this country? So I think this is the whole renewable rollout for those of us on the ground, Katie, Sal, myself, and there's hundreds of us everywhere all over the country where these projects are rolling out. They need to remember that this is not just us not wanting this in our backyards. This is about protecting our land, our water, our environment, our futures, our communities, and our businesses as well. Because if this goes bad, like we think it is going to, it's going to be an absolute fucking disaster for this whole country.
Katie, I mean, to add more problems to what you guys are facing out in rural communities, I mean, you're telling me the other day about the diesel running out in your area. I mean, this war that's happening, it's going to impact rural communities first, more than the cities. I mean, is there a fuel crisis happening in rural communities? I mean, is it something that's coming, or is it something that you're dealing with already?
No, it's happening already. There's plenty of, and you guys would be the same down there. I mean, I spoke to somebody the other day who didn't actually realise that farmers have like 5,000 and 10,000 litre fuel tanks on their properties. I just thought everyone knew that. Where do they think that the machinery gets fueled from? There are farmers around here everywhere who can't get their tanks filled, and they are wondering how they're going to be putting diesel in their tractors and slashers and everything they need to maintain their property so that they can grow beef. I mean, up here we're mainly beef and lucerne and those types of things, whereas down there with the girls, I think there's a lot of sheep, cattle and grain. Have you got grain or pasture down there, lucerne? Yeah, so you need diesel for all of that, no matter what. And if you can't grow the lucerne or the grain, then the cows don't eat. And if the cows don't eat, then there's no meat to go to market. And that means the shelves are empty at the grocery store. So I was even speaking to somebody here the other day who works in one of the big, like the supply places that sell the fertilizer in the big, like 1 ton bulker bags to the farmers. They can't get any fertilizer. So there's a heap of property owners out here who do not know how to prepare for planting in June. So the ramifications of what's going on right now with the fuel, they're not going to get fixed overnight. Like even if it stops tomorrow, and this is, I think, something that people in the city don't. So the question before about what's the message for the city, you can't just turn it like a tap on and off primary production. It requires a year ahead of planning every year. Hey, girls, like you don't just say, yeah, we're going to send 1,000 sheep to market this week. That's not how it works. You've got to grow those sheep for the 2 years beforehand. So we've currently got farmers who can't plant there's going to be 12 to 24 months of drama after this to catch up. And I don't think people over on the coast realise this yet.
This is going to be a massive thing. Like, I remember a few years, or it was a while ago now, they had like a cyclone or something like that through Coffs Harbour, and it wiped out bananas. Right?
Yep.
And they saw a real spike in inflation because the cost of bananas went up, right? Now, when farmers are not able to produce their food, even like say 10%, 20%, I mean, that's going to have a further impact on our economy and the prices that people in the cities are going to be paying. And it's also going to have a bigger effect because inflation is going to keep going up, and that's going to affect interest rates, and that hurts all the people that are property owners. So this is a flow-on thing. And I mean, we really want to hammer this to people. I mean, what's happening out in rural communities is really like ground zero of what's going to come for the cities and for our economy going forward. And a lot of people are just they don't even care. I mean, they're not even switched on. And, I think a lot of it is trying to get your voices out to people in the cities so they can hear what's going on. I mean, Katie's up in Queensland. She's seen these fuel shortages. I mean, can you confirm that the same thing's happening in New South Wales?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't matter which town it is near us, whether it was, Coolah ran out at one stage. Prima is out, a few times every week. Gunnedar's been out. Corindi's been out. There's been limitations everywhere, and it is happening every day. Now, the federal government might know things that we don't know on the ground, and I get that, but this is such a serious issue that we've never experienced before, and it requires that we do things that we've never done before. Why aren't they getting rid of the fuel excise? Why isn't that crucial to do right now? Why aren't they removing the sanctions on Russian oil? Why aren't they, playing hardball with China? If China stopped fuel coming into us, why aren't they doing things they've never done to help prevent us from actually hitting the wall where we run out of fuel? When the trucks stop in Australia and the supermarkets don't get their food, and the cattle can't get to the abattoirs, all of those things, when that happens, it's going to be hard to get back from that. When we can't sow and we can't harvest, it may not be an immediate effect on the food available in your supermarket, but there'll be shortages down the line, and the prices will only increase. They need to do things they've never done before. It requires them to be brave and ruthless even. It is an emergency.
Albanese brave? I mean, did you see him at Lakemba?
But
you're right. You're exactly right.
But see, we've also seen, so wholesale fuel is probably 50 or 60 cents dearer already than what you are seeing at the Bowser. I nearly fell over when we got a fuel delivery, and I don't blame our independent wholesaler for this at all, because they are doing their best, but that fuel was probably 40 or 50 cents dearer than what I could have gone to town and got it out of the Bowser for. Of course, I wouldn't have been able to get the amount that I got, but we are also having to wait longer for our fuel. Now, probably something that's lucky that's happened is it hasn't rained here, so we haven't had to sow yet. But the minute it rains in this area and everyone's trying to get on a tractor to sow, it'll be a shit fight. And
what was the other thing you told me about? You're running out of gravel as well. I mean, it's not just fuel that you're seeing shortages in. You're seeing shortages in other things as well, right?
So because of res construction, whether that be road construction or the energy hubs and that sort of stuff, we are seeing other resources struggle to keep up. I have heard that other locals have tried to get gravel for roads and cannot find gravel in the district because it's all earmarked for res construction. I tried to get lime from the local lime mine and instead had to go 300 k's away to get lime delivered to the farm within a timely manner so I could actually use it before we sowed. I think it was a 8-week or 12-week wait from the local lime mine. So I think, and these are all issues that Energy Co will call unforeseen, which is absolute crap, Because if you had asked a local what would happen when they started using hundreds of thousands of tons of gravel a year, and, you know, we're getting it from Dubbo and Mudgee and the local area, that it was going to run out. Well, Blind Freddie could have seen that coming, but they just didn't listen to us. And that is a huge failure of Energy Co. They are the infrastructure planner for the reses, but their coordination is non-existent. Like,
but Emma, some people watching might say, "Well, you can't get gravel, so what?" But I mean, what about water? I mean, you're telling me about how these res projects are taking a lot of water away from you guys as well, and you're already facing water issues and drought and the Murray-Darling, what do they call that? The Murray-Darling scheme where they take you can't, dam water on your property. I mean, you're already facing a lot of these issues. I mean, is it true that the renewable projects are taking water away from you as well?
Yeah, they're using a heap of water, Stephen, and the government and the Department of Planning and Energy Co will tell you that there's heaps of water there and it's not an issue. But as Sal brought up the other day, why are our towns having to go on water restrictions if there is so much water available? Why is council thinking that we need to restrict the usage of water in local towns if our water sources are so abundant and there's not an issue with res projects taking 700 megalitres a year, which is nearly the same amount that our whole council for 6 towns uses in a year for itself. So
that's only for part of the res. The whole res, the raw water demand is 10,000 megalitres. That's 10 times the amount our council normally use for 6 towns, and that's the whole res. And what Emma just said, that's only for the Coolah and Dunedoo projects, and which are in the Warrumbungle Shire. The water demand is massive.
Absolutely. And if we wake up tomorrow morning and our bores are pumping dry, our stock and domestic bores are pumping dry, like, what do? I can feed my stock. I've been feeding them for 3 months. If I've got water, I'm okay. But I can't cart enough water for 600 cattle and 1,000 sheep. Where do I send them? Because there's probably not a truck to send them anywhere because there's no fuel for him to use. So what do you do? So we've got the res sitting here eating all our resources and being told it's not a problem, it's not an issue. You know how the camp at Marothery is using 8 generators, diesel generators, to power itself to house 600 workers at the moment. Apparently, it's meant to be 1,200 when they get it fully running. How much fuel are they using a day? How many heavy vehicles are running around out there? How many loads of
Why can't they use solar? I mean, building a solar plant, they can't use solar without their.
They're meant to be, but they haven't got it ready to go yet, have they?
Of course they haven't.
It is an absolute debacle. Like, they could have paid Sal and I to sort this out, and it would have run 100% better than what they're doing now. It's an absolute debacle.
Got a question here from Dave again, and he says, sorry if it's off topic, but I don't get to speak to farmers regularly, and this is a good platform for people in the cities to be able to connect with people in the rural community. Hopefully that's something that we can achieve from this. But the question is, there is an argument made that immigration is required to carry out farm work. Is this true? And what is a farmer's idea to get Aussies working on farms again? I mean, who wants to take up that question?
I'd say a cup of cement for a fair few people would help.
But is it true that you guys? I mean, this is a scheme that apparently has been going on for years, where people that come here through different visas have to spend some time on farms to pick fruit or whatever it might be. Is this? I mean, you guys might not have farms that require that, but is this something that does happen? I mean,
absolutely. Look, yeah, it does. There's and while my farm doesn't do that, like fruit picking is a huge one. What else would there be? But there are, like, even harvest, shearing. There's quite a few industries that cannot find enough labour locally that do rely on immigrants during certain seasons of the year.
Do you guys, I mean, would you guys encourage people, I mean, everyday Aussies living in the cities, I mean, can you earn a good living working on a farm? I mean, are there opportunities available for people to find work out in rural communities?
Yeah, look, there's plenty of work if you are willing to do hard work and start at the bottom, and probably not get paid as much as you would in some areas. But think about the living costs out here generally are not as high as well, so you can factor that in. It's not huge money. It's not glamorous. You'll get broken fingernails and dirt everywhere and touch things you never thought you'd touch, but it's it's actually, you actually come home knowing that you've done something worthwhile every day. It's not easy, but it is definitely something that I would encourage everyone to do. It's a good way of life too.
Our rural communities have, you know, and I know it's the same across states, they've struggled to retain their population. We have a declining population, and I would argue that is by policy design that we are at the point we are today, and that's why we fight so hard. But you know, our kids are forced to go away for educational opportunities that aren't available in the regions. They get to see the big wide world, and then we have to work really hard to make sure that they have a appealing community to come back to, you know, that it offers services at least, you know, just a bit beyond basic, the internet and phone service and health and sporting, all those things, they help attract kids to come back. Because of that, we have a traditionally low unemployment rate, and that low unemployment rate is what has seen agriculture use immigration workers to meet the needs of the demand throughout the year, whether that is, you know, in the abattoirs or in fruit picking. I know that we had backpackers when our kids were little to help with the kids and the gardening and a few of the farm jobs, and there's a bit of a give and take there, where they experience Australian life on the land in exchange for, you know, work that will help them sign off on their visa. So it is such a complex situation that rural communities are facing, and it's the same everywhere. And these industries that are popping up, it was mining to start with, and now it's the renewables industry. We continually compete with them for staff, and agriculture has struggled to be able to pay the likes of what these solar and wind companies are paying their workers at an entry level. You know, they're backed by government subsidy, they're backed by our taxpayer money, and how many times are Australians going to have to pay? You know, their taxes prop up the capital investment scheme, then they pay for it through their bill for the poles and wires that are going to be built, then they pay for the actual energy consumption, which the price for that is only going up, and then the government continues to borrow debt, and then it'll be their kids that have to pay that back. How many times are Australians going to have to pay for this thing that is being forced upon us?
You know, one of the things, that popped into my mind when you guys were just speaking then, there's an argument that we should bring back national service to have kids go into the military and learn some discipline or whatever it might be. But we could do the same thing with rural communities. We have working experience programs in schools. Let's send some kids out to some of these farms and get them working there. Even if it's like a few months. How do you guys feel about that? Would you like to see some more city people, younger, high school kids come out to these rural communities and really get an education on some of the challenges that you guys are facing out there? Katie, what do you think about that?
Well, when I was growing up in the Lockyer Valley, so I'm a Gatton girl, we had the green the Green Army, Green Corps, Green Cadets. There was a whole heap of different names for it, but it ended up becoming land care. So anybody there who was unemployed and currently taking some sort of benefit from the government had to go out and work each day in these little buses, and they all got shipped up into the valleys up through the back of the Lockyer Valley, and they created fences around national parks, and they put in cattle grids across old roads, and they did all sorts of work. They helped to control invasive species. Lantana was a really big problem up there then. It was the best thing ever for a lot of those kids. A lot of them went on to university afterwards and ended up becoming park rangers and that type of thing. So I think something of the equivalent to do with farms and agriculture, all sorts of primary production is a great idea. And it should be offered to kids in school. There needs to be some sort of a program where they can go and live for 6 months on a farm and participate in rural life, because I think the big problem that we're facing, not just with the rollout of renewables projects, but with the appreciation of everything that is provided by rural Australia, is the disconnection that the city has to the country right now. Out here in the country, we understand what goes on in the city because we go and visit those places. It's nice to go to the city every now and then. But I don't believe that there's anywhere near as many people in the city who choose to come out to the country to see how we live. And that disconnect needs to be bridged, and it needs to be bridged at an educational level in primary and high school. Yeah.
Although now that I think about it, I don't know how Emma would react getting a busload of kids, high school kids from Manly, that would come out and tell her that she's on stolen land and she's going to die from global boiling, and she needs to carpet her farm with solar panels to save their futures. I mean, how would you deal with that, Emma, for having a bunch of teal kids come out and talk to you about how you should be running your farm?
A little bit of re-education goes a long way, Steve.
A few cups of cement, Emma.
Yes, something like that.
Well, we actually have the Steiner. I don't know if you've got them in New South Wales, but there's Steiner schools up here in Queensland. Are there Steiner schools down there? So there's a really awesome farm just here on the edge of Kilkeevan, and Shane Joyce, the bloke who runs it, he's a regenerative farmer. So he follows the principles of natural sequence farming, which is pretty cool, actually. And there's a lot of farmers doing it now. And the Steiner School comes out here every few weeks and brings these kids out. And I'm not kidding you. These kids get dropped off for a couple of weeks with nothing. And they're given chickens, like live ones running around, some bags of flour, and they have to chop the chooks' heads off and pluck the feathers and feed themselves. And they get a treat in the middle of this to come into town, and they come into my little shop, and they think it's the best thing ever because they buy an 80-cent chopper chub, And I've actually had some parents ring me from down at Noosa and Sanford, where these kids come from, and say, if we were to pay you over the phone, could you do up a little care package and drop it out to the farm? Our kid just managed to get a text message to us, and he says he's starving. But it's the best thing ever.
Doesn't want it.
Yeah.
These kids have got no idea about where food comes from. They bring them out here for 2 weeks. It's like, kill the chook or you're going to starve.
Yeah.
They learn real quick.
Stephen,
Now-
I've seen where kids have come out here from the city and been immersed in the lifestyle, not just a fly-by presentation visit, but to actually be immersed in a family, whether they're younger or older. Generally, once they're over the eye-opening stage where they just can't believe what they're seeing, they absolutely love to get involved and to help out. And the boys particularly, the mustering and the motorbikes and the yard work, and the girls with the horses and the lambs or whatever, the animals and the natural, birthing process. The kids love it. And I think it's a great idea. I really do. It would be wonderful.
That's why you got to have a centrist mindset to be able to come up with this stuff.
I know a few centrists.
So tell me about this. I mean, I don't even know too much about this, but cumulative impact studies and how they're not reaching council. Can you explain what's happening there? Because apparently this is a big deal of what's happening with the renewable energy zone. Is that right?
Yeah. So in the early days, when the res was put in front of us and we started to piece together the projects that were making up the res and connecting to the new transmission, we started asking questions about who is actually monitoring and assessing the impacts when you add them all together. So things like the amount of land that's required, the amount of biodiversity that will be lost, the amount of water that's required, the amount of new roads, what impacts will be on the roads and traffic in our region, what impacts will be on the housing, because the number of workers that is required is huge. So our questions were around who's doing that. And, Energy Co in all their wisdom put up their hand and said, well, that's our responsibility. So for 3 years, we've been lobbying for these cumulative impact studies to be released in detail. And late last year, they finally, to start with, they released a draft, which it came to our attention that the draft studies, 3 documents, had been sent through to our councils, but they were never actually provided to our elected representatives. So the bureaucrats in council got to assess them from a council perspective, but the mayor and the councillors never did get to view them prior to them being released to the public. Now, when you read the report, Energy Co assert that they had consulted extensively, was their word, with local government and with the community, and it's just not true. The water report, which is the one I've been through in most detail, it's water availability and access pathways for the CWO res. They state in there that the information in the report is only as good as the information that was contained in the environmental impact statement of each project. They looked at 50 projects in our res, but they could only use information from 16. So then they drew assumptions from those 16 to add up what the further impacts would be from the other 34, and that was the data that they've presented. Now, that water report, it's already got clear errors in timing and in quantity demands. So at what point do we receive accurate information in a timely manner that council can value and that community can get involved in, so we can potentially prevent disasters? It's not happening. And when you question the planning department or Minister Sharp on why it's not happening, we just get lip service like what's written in the report. It's not good enough, and it's going to end up with I hope it doesn't, but I believe it will end up with a community or two or our region in a very serious predicament.
I mean, I remember when I interviewed Rick Collis, who was a former Nationals upper house member, and he was in the parliament when they passed these laws to bring about these renewable energy zones. And he said to me when I interviewed him, he said, look, we just didn't realize it was going to be on this scale. We didn't know what we were passing. We didn't know it was going to lead to this. I mean, do you think that's a big problem, Emma? Do you think that the politicians are not getting the information? We know they're not coming out to see you guys. We know that the city politicians are not coming out to rural communities to see this stuff with their own eyes and speaking to the community themselves, but they're still in the parliament passing this legislation. Is that, I mean, as Sal alluded to or actually spoke about, they're not getting the reports that they need to see? Is that a huge problem?
I think there is a definite lack of transparency and information about what this actually looks like as a whole, which is something that we've never actually been shown the whole thing either. When they first came here, it was about transmission, or it was about this, or here's one project over here and there's another one over here, but you sort of never got the whole picture. What does this look like in the end? So I think
just to jump in, I remember speaking to you, I think the first time I had you on the podcast, and you said you had to trawl through project by project to tally up how many solar panels and wind turbines were going to be required for this renewable energy zone. There's no website you can go to see the true number of what's going to be done. You have to go project by project, and you have to do that with every aspect of these things. There's no central hub. Is that right? And I probably should ask you, do you still keep a tally of the amount of solar panels? Because I think you're up to like 9 million solar panels, weren't you?
Yeah, I think it was 9 million solar panels on approximately 17,000 hectares of land in this res alone. But look, I probably haven't kept too much on top of it. We haven't been seeing the projects roll out quite like they were in the early days. There's not quite as many of them that keep popping up now, but there would be more. There's probably also some that have fallen by the wayside a little bit too. Just got too hard for the developer, or neighbours being too difficult, or things like that. But I think ultimately, like Sal has always said, it was us that trawled through those documents and found all those numbers, and other people have done the same thing. And that's where I think Energy Co have let the team down majorly, is that was their job. But I think the point was they did not want anyone to see what this would look like. And so I think, yes, the politicians are definitely being kept in the dark to a certain extent. But that may also be from their own making. Are they going looking for this information? Are they coming and asking communities what is actually happening on the ground before they vote on things in Parliament? Like, I think there's probably fault from both angles on that as well.
Yeah. I just had this on the screen. I'll show it again because I probably should have it on loop. This is the Wellington solar project that's been constructed. You can see it off in the hills there. All that black glass, it looks like water, but no, they're solar panels. This is the scale of these projects. And this drone footage, I believe this is from the One Nation Party. They took this drone footage when they were out there. It stretches as far as the eye can see. This is this is only one project that has been constructed, and there's more and more of these projects yet to come. And you can't get any information on what's coming, can you? You have to go project to project. No politician, whether they're in Canberra or Macquarie Street or some of the other state parliaments around the country, I don't even think they're aware that this stuff is really going on.
No, there's a lot that aren't. As Sal alluded to earlier, we have had some great help from some members of Parliament in New South Wales. But the vast majority would have absolutely no idea what this will look like, what it will mean, and the impacts that are already rolling out on our communities. I think that's one of the big things.
And Dave makes a good point. I'll bring this up on the screen again. You see all these solar panels in Wellington. Most of that's Chinese made. 70% foreign owned. I think 80 to 90% of these solar panels and wind turbines are constructed overseas. We are ceding our energy independence to foreign countries when we should be energy independent. We've got all the coal, uranium, whatever we want in the ground. It's there for us to. I think even Australia invented solar panels, from what I've heard. We used to produce some of them, but we're basically going overseas saying, hey, you guys, we're going to be relying on you for our power sources. We're not going to rely on ourselves anymore. It's just crazy. And Katie, you've got a similar project up where you are, and there was a hailstorm that came along and took that out. And there was a fire. There was a fire at the Wellington one too. These things are susceptible.
63 shipping containers full of panels to replace the broken ones. But the bit that really upsets me when I look at those panels, so my husband works out in the coal fields out past Emerald. So he flies in and out every week. And the coal that they extract out of the ground out there in central Queensland, it goes on a train and it gets taken over to Gladstone, where it gets put on boats and it gets shipped to China. So we don't use it. And all of those panels that you saw there required electricity to be produced in China using our coal. Can everybody just think about that for a second? We dig the coal up from central Queensland. We send it to China. They burn it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that those power stations up there are not clean burning power stations like ours are to produce that you're all looking at on the screen right now. Now, every time it gets smashed by hail or it gets burnt out by a grass fire, we have to order another few shiploads full. And I don't know if everybody understands where those ships come, but they skirt down the edge of the Great Barrier Reef. And a few years back, the captain of one of those big Indonesian ships, well, he went to sleep, didn't he? And he smashed straight into the Great Barrier Reef. Where were the Greens when that happened? What did they have to say about that? If they're so worried about the environment, then why are they promoting a system that requires us to send coal on boats that chug diesel all the way up to China? They then burn it. They're not clean burning coal-fired power stations. Produce the panels, put them on another boat, chugs diesel, comes all the way back down, risks hitting the Great Barrier Reef to bring those panels back so we can put them on our land where they'll contaminate the ground for the rest of our existence, because I can't see how we're ever going to remove the heavy metals out of the ground that drip from these panels. Please tell me how this is saving the environment.
And you know what's crazy? If you drive past Liddell or Bayswater, I mean, there's a coal mine where they dig the coal and they pump it straight into the power plant.
Yes.
The footprint is so tiny.
Yeah. The coal mine is next to the power station. It's for a reason, because it just goes on a conveyor belt and goes straight into the power station. You know, we could have upgraded our power stations for barely even a drop of the money that we have spent on the rollout of the renewable energy projects throughout Australia. We could have upgraded them all. We could have built new ones, and they could have been high efficiency, low emissions. Why didn't we do that? Why did we not do that? So we have thrown our farmers under the bus. We're destroying our farmland. For what? We've got coal in the ground that we send overseas, and we're not even allowed to use it ourselves. And we have clean coal stations. This is madness, because when everybody wakes up in 20 years and realises that the rural industries in Australia have been completely white-handed to the point that we can't produce our own food anymore, and all of our food has to come from China, where it's been irrigated with sewage water, what do you think Australians are going to have to say about it then? Well, Albo won't be around to take the blame, will he? He'll be living in the Bahamas or wherever he plans on going.
And it was only recently they found asbestos in some of the wind turbines that were coming from China. So the stuff that you're talking about is not just fantasy. I mean, this stuff is actually playing out. I want to bring up this article again, and maybe we can finish off on this, because I think this is important. And this goes to show what journalists are interested in. I mean, I think we need to think about that more and more when we're trying to get our message out there. What are some of the things that the journalists are interested in, and the stuff that they want to include in their articles? And they always want to go to, you know, the central source, you know, the department, the relevant department or commissioner or whatever it might be, to get their thoughts and to get some of the things that they're hearing. And this is exactly what this journalist has done in this article. She's gone to the Australian Energy Infrastructure Commissioner. His name is Tony Maha, and he told news.com.au that the Commission had received 53 complaints regarding solar and wind projects in the central west of Rana over the last year. Most of the cases were categorized into concerns about transmission lines, visual impacts, acoustic impacts, inconsistent information, and neighboring payments. And this is a quote: "Generally, people are not getting enough information, but it varies from company and project." Now, the thing I really want to point out is people might think that it's a waste of time to put a complaint in, but this stuff gets lodged. I know, Katy, you talked about this at the Reality of Renewables town hall that we did when you were talking about the police. I mean, it's not just a trivial thing to put in a complaint. This stuff does get lodged. It gets recorded. It might not always get recorded. I don't know if you've got some examples of that, Emma. But this stuff gets tallied. And when the journalists go to these departments to get their comment, they have to talk. They have to disclose that. So it is something that is important. I mean, I don't know if you want to take that up first, Katy. You were making a huge point about that when we were in Dunedoo about contacting the police.
Absolutely. Because things need to get recorded. Otherwise, there's going to be no record for a journalist to put into an article. And the example I used when we were down there at Dunedoo in the Bowls Club was that, so with Marothry Road down there, which was an absolute atrocity. I cannot believe what happened at Marothry Road. I'm still shocked to this day at what I saw. So there were criminal acts that went on there. The developer or Energy Co has bulldozed those trees and they've killed protected species, native animals. So what should have happened at that point is that the locals who attended the scene, they should have rung 131444, the police, the go-to police number for all agencies around Australia, and they should have reported an animal protection offence, which has just gone on. And then once that's recorded in the computer system, it can't be deleted. But if you ring the local police station and you tell the local copper, hey, this has just happened, well, they might just scribble it on a piece of paper and that piece of paper just gets folded in the trash can later on. And it's the same with these renewable energies projects. So everybody says, oh, what can I do? Well, this is what you can do. You need to pick up a pen, you need to get your keyboard, or you need to pick your phone up and you need to make a formal complaint, because we're not getting enough numbers at the other end of the system to substantiate the issues that we're all raising. I mean, we know what's going on out here on the ground. We live it every day, but we need the figures. So even if you're a traveller and you're passing through that area, if you see it and you think that it's a environmental disgrace, write a letter to the Commissioner. Write a letter straight away and make your complaint known.
Have you seen any value? I mean, have you done that, Emma? Is there any value in doing it?
Yes. So I have made complaints to the AEIC, who is the Australian Energy Infrastructure Commissioner. I don't think I've made one while Tony Marr's been that, but the original commissioner and the interim commissioner, I made complaints to both of them. Is it worthwhile? There was no positive outcome for me. My number would have been recorded. Yes, I fully understand that, but there was no good outcome. I've also complained to the Energy and Water Ombudsman for New South Wales. Same thing. One of my complaints was about Energy Co and their community consultation, and there was nothing that E1 could do about that. Ultimately, what the lady that dealt with my complaint told me in the end was that I was better, because while you have an open complaint with E1, you cannot converse with the organisation that you have the complaint about. And she told me ultimately I was better off to close my complaint and go back to dealing with Energy Co on my own. So that is what we are dealing with on the ground, and Energy Co and all the other developers know that we have no joy through these processes. So that is what they write in their emails. If you are not happy with the outcome of what we have told you today, please visit E1, because they know there is nothing. They are toothless tigers. Both the Energy Infrastructure Commissioner and E1, as much as they're lovely people to talk to and they understand our concerns, there is no actual enforceable things that they can do to someone like Energy Co that is going to make any difference.
Got a couple of comments here, Katie. People want you to repeat the number that you gave out before for the hotline.
131444. It's the Australia-wide phone number for Police Link. So it's who you call now for all the police agencies around the country, unless you're ringing 000 because it's an emergency. So 131444 will get you through to the call centre, and that's where you lodge your initial complaint. And the reason why I tell everybody to ring that number is because once you've lodged it at that location, it's recorded in a computer system. It cannot be deleted. It's managed. There's so much risk management over the protection of that information. It can't be deleted. But if it's scrawled on a piece of paper at a counter of a police station, no one knows where it ends up. I've Yes, I can tell you right now, there's a filing system in some police stations that includes the rubbish bin. So you need to ring 131 444 and put the complaint on, because what that will do is it will kick off a system where that gets tasked out to the local crime manager. They look at it and they say, well, actually, yeah, that's an offence under the Animal Protection Act, or, you know, there's different acts in New South Wales than what we've got up here. And then it must be investigated. It has to be, because there's laws in place and there's offences connected to those laws. And if it's not investigated properly, then you have grounds to make a complaint to the police minister.
So, Katie, can I just ask, as Sal said earlier, we are being told that what we saw happen and what we've seen that has been done wrong didn't happen. So I understand what you're saying, and I think it's only a good thing, because it's something that we haven't tried properly, and it's something that we need to try. But when you've got the CEO of a major organisation saying to you face to face that, oh no, you didn't actually see that, or that did happen and you just didn't see it happen, what leg have we got to stand on?
So in terms of making it, yeah, I understand that's going on too, Emma, because it happens up here too. It's ridiculous. The lies and the gaslighting is out of control. But if you've got the evidence, the video evidence or the photos of what happened afterwards, I mean, in most circumstances, and it's happened up here, the community knew that something was about to go on, so people raced out and they were videoing what happened. That's the evidence that needs to be provided when the police complaint's made. So if the police are going to investigate, they need to be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt who committed the offence. So you need to get images of the person that was driving the bulldozer. You need to get images of the registration plate of that dozer, of the vehicle moving and what it's doing, or whatever it is. You know, it might just be an Energy Co worker trespassing on your property when they're not allowed in. That's an easy one to prove. Image of them walking in straight past your fence line, boom, they're done. So that's what up here with our with Kilkeevan Action Group, when I kicked it off, that was our big message to everybody, to keep your gate locked. Up here, the onus to prove trespass is not on the owner of the land. It's on the person who committed the offence to prove that they were allowed to be there lawfully. So all you needed to do was get a photo of the person on your property and go to the cops, and they're done. Straight up trespass. It's a simple offence, but this is what we need. We need to use every tool in the toolbox to fight this. I think the overarching issue that we've got with renewables is that we're not getting our message into the city. You guys all know, as I know, this has become a political battle because we need people to vote differently. That's a fact. Because until we get people into power who are going to pull us out of the Paris Agreement, cut the net zero rubbish, pull the plug on all of the upcoming renewable projects, you know, there'll be ones that have to remain in place where commercial contracts have been signed. But unless we can get that to happen, we're buggered. Because of what you just said, nobody's helping us. So that's the biggest thing that we have to do, is get the message into the city, which is obviously what Let's Rethink Renewables is trying to do. But the next thing is all the other tools. One, we need to see some of these people charged criminally. They need to be charged with willful damage, with trespass, with, you know, unlawful killing of native animals. All of those things, everything that we can possibly do, we need to do. And that is why it's so important that we all talk to each other, because the more information that we share, the more we all learn about the things that we can or cannot do. And law is our best friend. The law that's applicable in your state in relation to those things like trespass, everybody needs to know about those things. So up here at the very start, we produced what we called the Glove Box Guide, which combined all of the pieces of legislation surrounding trespass and compulsory acquisition of land and what powers police had to enter your land under those other acts. And we put it into a little guide, and we raised some money through Property Rights Australia, and they produced 600 copies of it, and we handed it out to all the farmers. So if a Powerland vehicle turned up at your gate, you could go and get the guide, and you immediately knew what to do. Well, there's just another tool in our toolbox, and that is an understanding of the legislation that we have to work under. But we need to be smart. We need to work smarter, not harder. and we need to get our message into the city, because that is the only way we're going to stop this stuff at the end of the day, because nobody else is helping us.
See, I think that's the big problem. You guys are so far away from where the message needs to go to. I mean, we've got a comment here from Dave. Dave says, if any of these ladies are local to the Illawarra or Sydney, I would love to host them as a guest speaker at a branch meeting for the People First Party. So people are willing to listen to you guys. I think you are resonating with the audience, but the fact is you live so far away. I mean, would you be willing? I know, Katie, you are willing. You drove 13 hours down to Dunedoo to go to a town hall there. But, I mean, would you guys be willing to maybe trek out to the Illawarra or Newcastle or Sydney to speak to people face to face? I mean, is it worth? I mean, I know you got big farms. I mean, it's hard to get away. I mean, is it worth you guys doing something like that?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
The cost is too great, Steve. We're not going to have farms left. If this goes unchecked for another term of the New South Wales government, we won't have farms left, and what we will have left is will be so far from what we know now that we'll regret it if we don't go and speak to the city people now. Like we need your help. Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, if anyone wants to reach out to these ladies, you can contact me, admin@commandingthenarrative.com, admin@commandingthenarrative.com, and I can pass on Emma's details, Sally's details, and also Katie. If you want to have a big event somewhere, I mean, Let's Rethink Renewables does that, and other groups like NREN put on events around the country. Sometimes we're involved. So I think it's important. I mean, if you want to host a little community event in your area, just reach out to us. We might be able to help. But Sal, I mean, I think I'm grateful for all your time tonight. All three of you for coming on. I mean, I know we've gone a bit long, but I think it's been pretty powerful getting this message out. But I know we covered a lot of issues, but if you're speaking directly to someone living in a Teal electorate like I'm living in, or a Labor electorate, or a Greens electorate, or even anywhere along the east coast of Australia, or in any city areas, anywhere in the country, and you want to, what message do you want to send them? I mean, is there anything that you can put into words to get them to understand what you guys are having to face?
If the likes of what Energy Co had in their promotional video, and if the information that they see about the transition and about the renewables, if all of that was true, we would be supporting it too. But the fact is, it's not based on truth. The outcomes that we will see as a nation are based on fairy tales, unicorn farts. They don't. It is so far from the truth. And if all we can get is for you to actually take the time, and if it requires a debate, then so be it. But take the time to learn from the perspective of people that see it differently to you, people that know that the climate changes, but not know that we're not in a climate crisis, that it's just a UN hoax. Take the time to have serious conversations and to learn about the impacts on the ground. I don't think you'll regret it. The truth is where we will meet in the middle, and that's what we need to do.
What about you, Emma? I mean, I know you've been on the podcast before, but is there anything that you can say to people living in city areas to get them to understand what you're facing? I mean, I think if they've watched this podcast already, they should hopefully get some sense of what you're saying. But is there anything directly that you can say to them?
I think the biggest thing that they can do is take a drive around. Like, I know fuel's expensive now, but ultimately, until you see, like Stephen, until you see it with your own eyes and see what they are actually doing, not the fairy tale, like Sal said, that they are saying that they're rolling out. Come and talk to some people in local towns. Like, most of us are fairly friendly. We don't bite. Just come and talk to us. Ask people on the ground what's happening. Look at what's happened on Marothery Road. That is the tip of the iceberg for the Central West Arana. transmission project. Like that is.
Can
just
you explain that? What did happen there? People might...
So Marothery Road is a local rural road that was rated by Energy Co's own admission in their environmental impact statement as being bi-directional, 2 lanes, rated at 100 k's an hour. Well, there was quite a section of it that you could barely pass 2 cars in one spot. Like one would have to kind of drive off the road a little bit to get another one past. Anyway, there's a section of that road that was heavily timbered, heavily vegetated, huge, hundreds of year old trees. There were big old trees along the whole road, but there was one section that was heavily timbered that the local council had declared as a high biodiverse area. Maybe about 20 years ago. No farmer was allowed to take a tree out to build a fence or anything like that. Energy Co got approval to remove every one of the trees in the road corridor to widen the road to be able to get their oversize, overmass loads into the main energy hub for the transmission project. So they demolished every tree in the section that they needed to be able to get through. Now, so I only knew about that before it happened because the information fell off the back of a truck. When you look at some of their management plans that are on ACE Res's website, who they are the consortium that are building and maintaining the transmission project, there are trees in there that were slated to stay. We knew that some would go. That was part of the process. But we were told the whole way through that our chance to have our say was during the environmental impact statement exhibition period. All it said in that environmental impact statement was that Marothery Road would require an upgrade. That was the information we got. So we weren't told that is what was going to happen. Like I said, the information fell off the back of a truck. So we did know about it, but no one wanted to hear about it until it was done. And there were baby birds left for dead, ended up in the vet surgery and with wildlife carers. I think there ended up being 60 or more of them. So yeah, it was a bit of a disaster. And like I said to you, that is the tip of the iceberg. Wherever the transmission lines cross, that there are trees, they have to go. Nothing over 2 meters high can stay in that corridor. And in some places, that corridor is 240 meters wide.
I just want to point out, if you go and watch the footage that we put out, the Central West Arana tour, which is the video right at the end on the main page of commandingthenarrative.com. If you watch that footage, I mean, the first part of it is just Adam Zara and I going out there, and we were excited because we hadn't been out there before. We're on a road trip. We don't get to see each other a lot, so you can see that we're a little bit jovial. We're talking about serious issues, but we're trying to do it in a bit of a fun way. Once you get to the point where we start talking to the locals, and as soon as I saw the landscape of where these projects were going, it was no fun and games anymore. And you'll see that change in that footage, where as soon as I saw the landscape, I was literally angry because I knew what people like Chris Bowen and Matt Keane, these idiots that probably have never even been out there, who have never worked a single day in the real world in their whole life. They're just union hacks or political staffers. They have got no idea about running anything. These are the people, the types of people that are pushing these projects, and there's no accountability at all, which you've heard about tonight from Emma, Sally, and Katy. I mean, I was angry because I knew what was happening, and I knew that it was going to be so hard to stop it. So I do encourage everyone to get out to these areas and to see this stuff, close up. And luckily I was on a tour, and Emma, you were taking us around. I mean, we can't always get people to have access to some of these farms to see where these projects are going, but I mean, this is a massive thing, and it's not getting talked about anywhere near enough. And I think we do need to reach out to some of the politicians. I don't know how we're going to get them out there, but we need to do more tours like this to get some of the politicians out, particularly the ones in the Liberal Party. Well, I don't know if the Liberal Party is going to be around much longer, but the Labor Party, I know One Nation's willing to do it. I know a lot of the other, I know John Ruddick was out recently. He went out to Goulburn and saw some of this stuff up close and personal. But look, it's not an easy trip from Sydney. I mean, there's no direct road. It was, 5-hour trip out to Dunedoo and Dubbo and those places. I mean, it's a big effort, but I think some of these politicians in particular need to do it, and probably some of the media as well. The media need to get out there and actually see what's actually happening, because I don't know how you guys feel, Sally. I mean, and you, Emma. I mean, I'm going out there from the Northern Beaches, seeing one area or a couple of different farms, and I'm getting angry. You guys are living with this stuff every single day, and you're seeing your community, what effect it's happening on your community. I mean, emotionally for you guys, I mean, how's it been? Like, did you guys start with anger? I mean, have you gone through despair? I mean, Sally, I mean, what has been the personal toll on you having to be confronted with this sort of stuff?
Oh, wow. It required a bit of a change in career for me. I'd spent 15 years in rural community development, and I could see the gravy train rolling into our rural communities. And over the last couple of decades, our towns have been trained to compete for funding for essential services, for hospital renovations or for sporting facilities or whatever it is. Our towns have been trained to compete for money. So when I seen that coming, I stepped away from the job that I'd come to love. There's been impacts on health and on sleeping and on time away from the family. This whole thing was the icing on the cake for me to put up my hand to run as a candidate in the federal election. Politics is not something I ever wanted to be involved in. I see the games. I don't appreciate the games. I like brutal honesty. I like courage. I like conviction. I like to see the people on the ground planning for their future. I don't like our government planning it for us. That all those things were reasons why I threw my hat in the ring. It wasn't because I wanted a political career. I just want a future for our kids that looks something similar to what we grew up with. That's just the start of it, I suppose.
Yeah. What about you, Emma? Same question.
Look, similar answer, I guess. You were right. You go from, I think, shock first, finding out you live in a res and then working out what that even means is huge. And then, like you said earlier, you trawl through documents to try and understand what it actually means and what it looks like. And so it's all time. It's time away from my business, my farm, my animals, my family. I get frustrated because I see things on the farm that should be done or should have been done God knows how long ago that are sitting there waiting because, I've been in a meeting or I've been on the computer for hours or reading documents or whatever it might be. Like Sal said, lost sleep. Instead of sleeping, we're reading documents or responding to an EIS or some such rubbish. I think there are so many people that have given up fighting because it is literally like banging your head against a brick wall every single day. You think you are trying to protect the future of your community and your business and your land and environment and everything, but you are constantly met with political spin or just bullshit answers that no one will actually tell you the truth. And sometimes I think that's because they don't even know the truth. They don't know what it will do to us, what ultimately it will even look like in the end. So I think I mean, I was obviously born lucky with a fair bit of mongrel in me and stubbornness that has not let me stop. And people like Sal and ultimately meeting Katy, it's people like them and you, Stephen, that keep those of us that have fought this long going, because we know that there are other people that we could help in the end. And I think ultimately, probably in the Central West Arana res, we're under the bus. I think we're in real trouble here. But if we could stop this happening to other communities, other businesses, other farmers in the New England or the Southwest or even in Queensland and Victoria, well, that would look like a win, because we haven't really had any to date.
Yeah. Katy, I'm almost hesitant to ask you the same question, because I mean, in this time that we've known each other, we've developed a strong friendship from our days in the National Rational Energy Network, moving into Let's Rethink Renewables and trying to fight this fight. I mean, I know you're working every day of the week, 16-hour days, long hours. I mean, I don't know how you devote any time, having a young family and a husband, to fighting this battle, and you've taken on the responsibility of being president of Let's Rethink Renewables, and I think you deserve that role because you're such a dynamic speaker. And as I said at the beginning of the interview, your videos do get a lot of cut through. I mean, a lot of them rack up a hell of a lot of views because people resonate with your passion and how you speak. What's the toll been on you? I mean, I know you're not getting any financial reward from doing this, and people would like to claim that groups like Let's Rethink Renewables are funded by the coal industry. And I always say, I wish. That'd be great. Throw us some money. I mean, it would help us try and push back against what a lot of these people out in rural communities are facing, and we could try and help them a lot better. But that's definitely not happening. We're reliant on people making small donations or signing up to membership at let'srethinkrenewables.org. But I can see it in your face. I mean, I know from speaking to you that it is taking a huge toll. I mean, why do you keep pushing back? Why do you keep fighting, against all this stuff?
Well, to not fight means that Australia is lost, and we've all got kids, we've got family, we've got friends. I'm a born and bred country girl. I was raised understanding the cost of putting food on the table, what it takes in these areas to produce everything that feeds the mass populations over on the coast. I look at that and I think, if we don't fight, then we lose all of our primary industries. Then what is left in this country? And the option is there is no option to stand down. And I don't know, like Emma just said, you've just got this mongrel in you. I don't know, I've had it since I was a kid. I cannot bear to see injustice. I cannot bear to see people being shit on by the government. And the second that all this started happening, it just reeked of injustice, and it reeked of bureaucratic bullshit being decided on in offices down in cities. They didn't care about what they were doing to people's lives, what they're doing to towns. The fabric of this country is at risk. You just have to fight, and it is tough. It's tough on your marriage. It's tough on your kids. I thought being a cop for 16 and a half years and missing so much stuff while I was doing shift work was tough. It had nothing on this last several years. I've missed everything with my kids. And some days I regret it and I think, why did I do it? But honestly, people need to understand that the future of Australia is at risk. It really is. It is at risk. And if there weren't people like Sally and Emma and the 1,000 other people just like them who are fighting right now around this country, all of the people over in the city who rely on the food and the fibre and the minerals that come from these areas, they're going to wake up one day and that stuff's not going to exist anymore, and they're going to wonder what happened, and it'll be too late. So we have to fight. We don't have an option. There is no choice. And I just think to myself, we will win. I hope that we win. God help us that we're going to win, because if we don't, I fear to think of what's going to happen in Australia, but there is no option. We have to save the countryside, because without it, we have nothing. You know, as Let's Rethink Renewables pillars say, the productive farmlands and wildlife habitats and rural landscapes and strong communities are unrenewable. Once they're gone for good. We don't get them back. So that's why we all have to fight. And that's what drives all of us, I imagine. That's what drives every one of us to do what we do. And Stephen, just add yourself to that list, mate, because I've known you for a few years now and your energy levels are endless. What you do, you're the same as the rest of us. None of us get paid for this. We're all giving up time with our families. We're all giving up our social lives. I don't know about you girls, but I don't have a life anymore. My life consists of going to work to pay the bills so that I can do things like drive to Dubbo in 16 hours when it should have taken 13 hours. Don't ask Google to get you to Dubbo from Queensland. But that's the thing, right? We all work, so we all maintain lifestyles the same as every other person maintains, but then we have a whole nother profession on top of that. You need to put 20 to 30 hours into this each week to make it happen. So, yeah, I know I'm ranting like I always do, but that's just the facts of how it is.
Yeah. No, I think, look, I do want to thank you, all three of you, for coming on. I know it's taken up a lot of time tonight, 2 hours of your Sunday night. I'm sure you could be doing some, maybe relaxing or trawling through some more energy code documents. I know that's what you do for fun, Emma. But
yeah, you got me.
But look, guys, I thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully the audience learned something, or at least got some value out of what you guys had to say tonight. And I do encourage everyone, as I do every week, but I think it's more fitting this week. Get this information out there. At least talk about it with people. Say, hey, there are people out there in Australia that don't like this renewables rollout, and it's really affecting them and it's affecting their communities. And let people know about it. Talk to people at your work. Talk to your family. I know it's uncomfortable, but I mean, if we're going to stay silent about this stuff, then you're basically handing this country over to people like Chris Bowman and Matt Keane and all the Teals and Anthony Albanese and all the multinational corporations that are just swooping in and taking advantage of all the subsidies the government is just throwing at them to set up these projects that are carpeting our countryside and our land and this great nation, and it doesn't even work. I mean, this stuff we're talking about, solar panels, only works when the sun is shining, and then what happens when the sun isn't shining and when the wind's not blowing? This stuff is useless technology, and it's being sold as something that's going to save us. It's ruining us, and it's only we wouldn't know about this if it weren't for people like Katy, Emma, and Sally. So thank you to each one of you for coming on tonight. I've really appreciated it.
Thanks, Dave.
And no problem. And we'll no doubt have you all on again at some point in the future. But for now, as I said, please share this out to everyone. Follow Let's Rethink Renewables.org. Sally, you're on Facebook as well. Just look up Sally Edwards and follow Sally. Emma, I don't know about you if you've got any social media presence, but I know if you're in Emma's community, at least go up and give her a hug. I think she deserves it.
I'd hug you every time I saw you, Emma, if I lived down there.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
No worries. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you.